appointment alarm.
All right, we're good to go.
All right, I'd like to call to order the September 8th meeting of the Common Council. The time is 7 p.m. and the notices were mailed and posted appropriately. We'll begin with roll call if Joanne would like to do that.
Mayor Kim Smith,
Here,
Tom Smith,
Here.
Jim Olson,
Here.
Dan Stevens,
I am present.
Diane Wolf. Here. Stephen Knott.
Present.
okay, thank you. We'll continue with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
Indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 3 is the rules of the City of Onalaska Common Council and its subcommittees. This is a harassment-free forum. The City Council and subcommittee meetings shall be conducted in a courteous manner. Citizens, council, and committee members shall be allowed to state their positions in an atmosphere free of slander, insults, obscene remarks, threats of violence, or for use of council or committee as a forum for politics. Sufficient warnings may be given by the Sergeant at Arms at any time during the remarks. In the event that any individual shall violate the rules of decorum heretofore set forth, such person may then be cut off from comment or debate. Item 3 is public input. If there are members of the public that would like to address the committee, please state your name, address, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the council. Is there anyone who would like to address the Common Council? Second chance, if anyone would like to address the Common Council. This is the last call. If anyone would like to address the Common Council, please unmute yourself and say something or raise your hand electronically so that we can hear from you. Amanda, do you see anyone? Okay, not seeing any. That portion of the meeting is closed. Public input is now complete. Item 5, report from the mayor. I want to start out by recognizing 2 part-time firefighters who have completed their probation. I know it's a lot nicer when we can have these folks in the council and publicly recognize them, and we'll maybe do that at some point in the future. We can bring them all back when we can gather in the council chambers, but I'd like to congratulate Zach Zolendek, who's a firefighter, emergency medical technician, as well as Casey Stadler, firefighter, emergency medical responder, for completing their probation. Congratulations. Item B is appointment of Greg Marceau, 333 Larkspur Lane West, to the Parks, Recreation, and Library Board. There were 2 different pages of information about Greg in the packet. They were separated by the cemetery information in my packet, at least. But I'd like to ask the council to support my appointment of Greg Marceau to the Park, Recreation, and Library Board.
I move that we appoint Greg Marceau to the Parks, Recreation, and Library Board.
I'll second.
A motion by Dan Stevens, seconded by Stephen Knott. Is there any discussion? Alder Stevens?
Yeah, I happen to know Greg Marceau. I believe he's a member of the Onalaska Hilltopper Rotary Club, and they seem like they're a pretty good bunch of people. So Greg's active in some other activities. I think he'd be a good appointment towards this board.
Thank you, Alder Stevens. Any other discussion? Okay, so concerning the appointment of Greg Marceau, we will have a roll call vote. City Clerk?
Stephen Knott,
Aye.
Diane Wolf. Aye. Jim Olson,
Aye.
Tom Smith,
Aye.
Dan Stevens.
Aye.
Okay, thank you for that. Item C is the appointment of Jay Patel, 1548 West Young Drive, to the Room Tax Committee. There was information about Jay in your packet, and I would like to ask the council to appoint Jay Patel to the Room Tax Committee.
I move that we appoint Jay Patel to the Room Tax Committee.
I'll second that.
Motion by Dan Stevens, seconded by Tom Smith. Is there any discussion? Alder Stevens.
Thank you, Your Honor. I serve with Mr. Patel on the La Crosse County Convention and Visitors Bureau. Mr. Patel participates in the committee dedicated to tourism in our area, and he owns and operates several hotels in the area and is an Alaska resident. So for those reasons, he would be an excellent addition to the commission.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments or discussion? You're not seeing any. We'll have a roll call vote on that appointment. I'll turn to City Clerk Joanne Marcon for that.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Tom Smith,
Aye.
Jim Olson,
Aye.
Diane Wolf. Aye. Stephen Knott.
Aye.
Okay, thank you for that. Those two have been appointed. Item D is the announcement of the open house and information meeting for the 2020 Cemetery Master Plan. This long-awaited event for some will be held on Thursday, September 24th at the Omni Center from 4 to 7. There is also information available online for residents to view, trying to provide, it's difficult to try to get information out into the public. So we have provided several ways that they can do that. And I guess I would like to turn it over to our city engineer, Jared Holter, if he wants to add anything I might have missed.
Thank you,
Jared?
Mayor. This is a long-awaited event. We did plan to have this earlier in the summer, but due to the COVID pandemic, we did delay. We feel we can be socially spaced and have a good public meeting at the Omni Center on September 24th. Also, if you want to go to cityofonalaska.com/cemetery, you can see the plans. And there's also an online form to give comments if you can't make it to the meeting. So we encourage everyone to give comments regarding the options presented and how the future of the cemetery will look.
Thank you for that, Jared. Alder Knott.
Yeah, just one quick question. Would it potentially be something beneficial to directly advertise the open house with funeral homes and churches, since they're the ones who probably have the most interaction with cemeteries?
I'll defer to Jared Holter to answer that question.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, we are reaching out in a variety of ways. That is a good addition, Alderman Knott, to reach out to those two groups. We are going to email out the public hearing notice along with the questionnaire to the city email list. We have, I was on WISM last week announcing the event. We are putting it in the newspaper, and we have released a press release and have it on the city website. So we are trying to get the word out to the public.
Thank you, Jared. Okay, the next item on the agenda is recommendations for approval and/or possible action from the following committees, subcommittees, or boards. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests removal, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in the order of business in the non-consent agenda. Are there any items that the Onalaska Common Council would like removed from the consent agenda? Okay, not seeing any. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Jim Olson, seconded by Stephen Knott to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the non-consent agenda. Item 7 is a recap of items pulled from the consent agenda. We did not have any, so we will continue on to item 8, the Finance Committee, and I'll turn it over to the chair of that committee, Dan Stevens.
Thank you, Your Honor. Under item 8A vouchers, the following is a list of monies expended since the last common council meeting dated August 11th, 2020, and the total is $1,823,397.49. I recommend approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Jim Olson to approve the vouchers. Is there discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Under item 8B, resolution 37-2020 to eliminate fixed expenses for common council and the mayor. This had passed the finance committee and we recommend approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Alder Dan Stevens, seconded by Alder Jim Olson to approve resolution 37-2020. Is there discussion? Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just wanted to confirm that we are not approving the item that was in our packet, but the one that was sent to all of us via email by our city clerk today.
I guess I was buzzing for the person who made the motion to respond to the. Sorry.
Yes, so the, to my understanding, maybe Amanda would be the better person to ask, but my understanding was the out of committee that the revised with the corrected date, I believe that ended in 2022, was the amount that is part of this motion and not the original version, which was incorrect.
Correct. So there was just one typo in a whereas clause. And so we fixed that, and that's the revised version you were sent today.
So to be clear, the motion is for the fixed revised clause.
Thank you. Alder Knott? Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. I guess you're just adjusting your.
I think that was my thumb.
Who knows? Is there any other discussion? Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve resolution 37-2020 in the with the typographical error corrected. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 9 is Plan Commission. A, consideration and possible action on resolution 38-2020 to create a tax incremental district number 6, approving its project plan and establishing its boundaries in the city of Onalaska, Wisconsin. It was a recommendation of the Plan Commission to approve resolution 38-2020, and I'll turn this over to the Common Council.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 38-2020 to create a tax incremental district number 6.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Steve Knott, seconded by Alder Tom Smith. And I'll put it to our city administrator, Eric Reinfleisch, for the initial comments.
Thank you. We do have Sean Lentz. I'm not sure he's available right now. He's actually calling me. I'm going to put you on hold for just one moment to see where he is for the presentation. I think we may have some technical difficulties. One moment.
Gareth, I can do the presentation, the PowerPoint on my end.
Okay, Amanda, why don't you go ahead and share your screen while Eric figures out what he's doing? So we can just keep moving. So Ehlers had put together a description of
the shared screen, so you're there.
they had put together this presentation that we shared with the Plan Commission, and I think they're trying to share it with you all now so we can
Yep,
address.
call
any-
right in. Thanks. Bye. Okay, Sean will be calling in here shortly, Amanda, so you'll be seeing his 651 area code number,
Okay,
and he'll be able to walk through the presentation. But as Mayor Smith had pointed out, this is the presentation that one is substantially similar to what you had already seen early August, and what the Plan Commission had seen, reviewed, and recommended approval for. But Sean will be here shortly to answer any questions or walk through the presentation if you would like.
Maybe, Eric, could you just recap where we're at in the process and when the TIF 6 is meeting again, if this is approved?
Sure. Amanda, if you could forward on to the last page. There we go, or one before the last page. So in terms of the timeline, we actually had an initial step prior to the August 25th, 2020 date, where we did a presentation to Common Council to gauge and gauge interest and get some insight. That went then to the end of August, the Joint Review Board meeting, as well as the Plan Commission public hearing and Plan Commission votes, which was recommending TID 6 creation to City Council. We now stand on September 8th, the second step, where the City Council will meet to either pass or deny the resolution, which is on the agenda. And the following step, if the council chooses to pass it, the Joint Review Board will convene on September 16th to vote on the creation of TID number 6 or not. Amanda, do we have Sean on yet?
we do, I believe.
Okay, we recognize Sean from Ehlers.
Sean, it looks like you have yourself muted on your end. There you go.
Sean, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, all right. Sean, I don't know if you had a chance to hear, but I did review the timeline page. And now it's open for, we have a motion on the floor to approve it, and it's open for, the topic is open for discussion.
Great. Thank you for being patient with my technology issues here. So I'll go through the presentation, and as much as council members would have questions and can let me know that they have them, please feel free to ask at any point. The second page, just as an introduction of the presentation, is a photograph of most of the site that we're talking about putting in tax increment district number 6. And the question asked is, how can we fund incentives and infrastructure that is necessary to make this site consistent with what the city's goals and vision for it are? The tool of tax increment financing is really the most powerful economic development and redevelopment tool a city has to assist in funding of incentives and primarily infrastructure to make a development occur and make it be a development that is feasible. Now, if we go to the next page entitled "How Does TIF Work?", I can spend a second just on what I would call the logistics of tax increment financing. Using TID 6 and the site as an example, the city staff and myself have done a number of discussions about the proposed boundaries for the district. And one of the analyses that we do is we figure out what is the current taxable value of the property proposed to be put into the tax increment district. And under terminology for tax increment financing, that would be called the base value of the district. So the property that we're proposing to be put into the district, its value that it currently has is taxed by all the taxing jurisdictions, and that will continue for the entire life of the district. So as an example, the excuse me, the Menard site is being put into the district, that value has been taxed in the past and has gone to all the taxing jurisdictions, and that will continue for the life of the district. That value is not being captured by this district. What is being captured, though, from the point the district is created until it closes, is any new value that is constructed on the site, or any inflationary value, or any redevelopment value. And that value is categorized as increment value. It's taxed at exactly the same rate as all other value in the city. The difference is that the taxes on increment value, so in this case, new residential development, new commercial development in the boundaries of the TIF, that new increment value, tax revenue from it, goes to a special fund that the city is allowed to use to pay back for infrastructure and other investments that are necessary for that development to occur in the first place. So that is how that special revenue source and unique revenue source is an offshoot and a benefit of creating a tax increment district. So for during the life of the district, the TID fund collects all the taxing jurisdiction's share of that tax increment revenue until the expenses, infrastructure, and incentive are repaid. Any questions on that part before I move forward with talking more about TID 6 specifically? Okay, so if we go to the next slide, and again, we've got a map of district number 6. The district is proposed to be a mixed use district, and mixed use is one of a couple different types of districts that the city can create. Blight elimination, conservation redevelopment, or industrial are other districts. In this case, with the purpose of striving to create housing opportunities and commercial opportunities and growth in the city and in the boundaries of the district, the mixed use is the best fit. Again, with that goal of expanding residential and commercial activity in the city. The finding that we needed to make and worked with city staff on this is that at least 50% of the area is suitable for mixed use, and mixed use can be commercial, residential, or industrial development. So that finding is able to be made on this site that's proposed for the district. And another element of the project plan for district number 6 is the type of expenditures that the city intends to do, incentive or infrastructure, to promote and try to create that new development on the site that creates the new tax base or the increment value. And the projects that I've worked with city staff on to include in this project plan included some streetlights, engineering, a roundabout, traffic roundabout, water, sewer, and storm sewer utility extensions and main lines into the area. And also, due to probably realigning some of the roadway throughout, going through the phases of doing these projects, some temporary roadway will be necessary as well. Now, by putting these projects in the tax increment plan, that allows the city to use this new revenue source, this new potential revenue source called the tax increment revenue, to repay those expenditures over the life of the tax increment district. So that's what it means to put those project costs in the plan. The projects themselves, when during the implementation of the project plan, the city decides to go forward with those projects, will still need to be individually approved as you approve other infrastructure projects that the city does, whether it's in a tax increment district or not in a tax increment district. So again, having them in the plan allows us to use tax increment revenue to pay for them rather than have to have the city alone pay for those sort of costs. But it doesn't guarantee that those projects are approved and moving forward. That'll still have to go through the council's normal process. Any questions on that?
And
All right, if we
don't see any, Sean,
go
thank
ahead.
you.
Okay, thanks, Eric. If you go forward to the next page, this is an estimated cash flow of the tax increment district based on some discussions that Katie spearheaded in regard to development on the site, Katie and Jared. That there's a column there called value added, which if you sum up the entire column comes to about 62 million. So the expectation is that with full development of the site, that there is the projection that we could have 62 million in new taxable valuation in Onalaska. Now, while the tax increment district is in place, taxes on that 62 million will go to the tax increment district fund. And you'll see that in the orange column entitled tax increment. At the beginning of the development, when phase one occurs, and we're projecting construction in 22 and tax revenue from that in 24, it totals about $250,000 to $260,000 in revenue. When the full 62 million is constructed, if it's successful to create all of that value, the annual revenue would be over $1.2 million a year. So over the 20-year maximum life of tax increment district number 6, this projection estimates that there'll be about 17.9 million in potential tax increment revenue generated by this district from that new tax value of 62 million that is forecasted here in new construction. Now, how would we use or project to use that 17 million in new revenue? That's on the next page, entitled Tax Increment District number 6, Preliminary Cash Flow. What we've done on this page is we've taken
Amanda, could you
that
forward
projected.
the next page, please? Thank you. Sorry, Sean.
No, I appreciate you letting me know that it wasn't up yet. Is it up at this point, Eric?
Yes.
Okay, thank you again. So on the left side of this page, that cash flow is shown, again, starting at about 258,000 in 24 and gradually ramping up to over $1.2 million in revenue a year. In working with city staff, we've phased out the projects that I talked about a couple of slides ago into potential financings for those projects. So for the roundabout and the utility improvements and otherwise. And we structured very preliminary debt issues. Typically, TID projects are financed either with advances from other city funds or with debt issues, and that'll be up to your finance committee and finance director to make recommendations on the best way to do them. But for preliminary purposes, we show those as debt issues over the first 15 years of the 20-year life of the tax increment district. And we look at those expenses in comparison with the revenues. And with our projection at this point, with getting 62 million in value and funding all of the expenditures, including interest on debt, the expectation is that in 2033, the tax increment district could go out to 2041. But in 2033, based on this forecast, the city will have accumulated enough money in TID number 6 to prepay the debt and potentially close the tax increment district at that point. When a TID closes, the value that has been generated in the district, in this case, that estimate of 62 million, would no longer be in the special fund, but would shift back and now be part of the tax base for all of the taxing jurisdictions, including the city. So the 62 million would now be added to your general fund tax base, as well as the tax base for the county, the tech college, and the school. So those jurisdictions are foregoing collection of this revenue while the TIF is in place, but these expenditures are necessary to create that 62 million in the first place. Otherwise, the property is much more likely to stay as it has and be undeveloped. So the theory is, but for doing these projects and creating the district, we aren't able to create this 62 million, and the other jurisdictions are partners in this, and then their benefit, just like the city does, with that increased tax base for your general funds after all of the TID's expenditures have been repaid. So that's a summary of the project plan that we discussed with the Plan Commission back on August 25th, as well as with that joint review board made up of each of the taxing jurisdictions. Today, we wanted to go through this directly with the council and provide an opportunity for you to ask any questions on the district, leading up to the question of whether you would like to propose or approve a resolution that approves the boundaries and the project plan that I just discussed with you. And I think, as Eric had already mentioned, if the council is wanting to proceed with this and approve a resolution to do so, we will have that final meeting with the joint review board next week on the 16th. So at this point, Eric, I'll stop and maybe if it's okay with you, I'll open it up with you and the mayor open it up for any questions.
Do the counselors have any questions? Okay, well, thank you for your presentation, Sean. I think we have been discussing this for quite a while now, and it was good to have, yep, I see you there, Alder Stevens. It was good to have the presentation with kind of the final proposal that's going to be going, if it passes tonight, that will be going forward to be reviewed by the group. Alder Stevens.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I guess I have possibly two questions depending on the outcome of the first one. One of the things I think that is intriguing about this tax district is that my understanding is if it's not utilized, that there's not really a financial risk to the city if it's not utilized. But in the event that it is not utilized after a determinable period of time where there's no value added, so if we put this tax district in place and nothing happens with it, should it be the policy of the city to keep it open, or should we incorporate something like a use it or lose it clause? And then the follow-up question would be, so if nothing happens in the district, if we pass that and it's open, what happens to the increment on the land value, on the base land value, while it's open? Meaning, if nothing happens and we set up this tax district, will it just collect money for till 2041? And then what happens at that point? So I've been thinking a lot about this and just kind of looking for loopholes and would appreciate some insight.
Yep, thank you. Some of that is built in. Those are all excellent questions. We'll let our city administrator answer those.
I'll take the second one first, Alder Stevens. Well, first of all, the base value of the land is much as Sean's example with Menards. The existing taxable value, the base value of the land will continue to collect, and that'll be shared with all the taxing entities until something is built. It's only the incremental value of what is built that will become just taxed and collected by the district for use of expenses. Second part of that is if, based on the projects list, if the district is created by the council approval, followed up by the joint review board approval, and you can see that the earliest that we look at, even looking at some expenditures would be about 2 years from 2023, I believe the chart said. And that would be for streetlights on Sand Lake Road up and down. If no dirt is moved and there's no projects going on, there's no reason to keep the district open. There's a 20-year window on your recouping of your expenses. There's a 15-year window on the expenses itself. If the particular project does not start moving dirt and there doesn't seem to be any dirt, the district should be closed then. And then potentially if there's a new development that comes down the road, if you need to recreate a district, then at that time you would look at that. But having that window, that countdown, having it stay open, not doing anything and not generating any expenses, not collecting any incremental revenue, doesn't make sense with that clock ticking. Sean, maybe you can answer if I missed anything.
Sean, did you want to add anything to that?
Mayor, the only thing I think, Eric, you touched on this, but the expenditure period of the district is the first 15 years of the 20-year period. And for the council member, let's say that the city kept the district open for whatever reason, even though nothing was happening. Once you got to year 16, if any costs that you did have related to the district had been paid back, at that point, you're out of your expenditure period. The district has to close at that point because there's no opportunity to add new expenses. But you are allowed to keep the district open for those first 15-year period because you can incur new expenses for the first 15 years of the 20 years of the tax increment district. Now, if you change your mind and you're not going to do anything with it, I agree with what Eric said. You most likely you're just going to close it. But technically, that would be the rules.
Okay, thank you for that, Sean. Are there any other questions? I do not see any other questions. We have a motion on the floor. The motion is to approve resolution 38-2020. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh, we're
Aye.
gonna have a roll call vote, sorry.
Tom Smith,
Yes. Aye.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Stephen Knott, Jim Olson, Diane Wolf.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Item 10, room task, and thank you, Sean, for calling in. We appreciate your information and the presentation was very good. Thank you. Item 10.
Thank
room
you, Mayor.
task-
Thank you, Council.
You're welcome. To review and consideration of changing the meeting date and time for the next Room Tax Commission meeting to Wednesday, January 6th, 2021 at 4 p.m. I'll turn it over to Alder Stevens.
Thank you again, Your Honor. The Room Tax Commission meets on regular intervals. However, the way that it lined up with the calendar this year, it either abutted Christmas or New Year's, and for our members, that was problematic. So it was the consensus of the Room Tax Commission for the next meeting to occur on January 6th, 2021 at the regular time of 4 p.m. So this is just a matter of avoiding holidays and being able to meet a quorum. So I would make a motion and that we approve the time and date change for the Room Tax Commission.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Knott to change the next Room Tax Commission meeting date to January 6th, 2020 at 4 p.m. Any further discussion?
Your Honor, it's 2021.
Oh, 2021, sorry. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Let's get through
2020.
2020 and not start it over.
I
again.
know, it's like, wow, we don't want to do this year again. All right, number 11 is report from the city administrator. I'll turn it over to Eric.
Thank you, Your Honor. Under A, review and consideration of non-budgeted audio-visual updates for City Hall Council Chambers, Conference Room 112, Police Training Room, and Fire Training Room with potential reimbursement through CARES Grant for COVID-related expense. So what was sent late last week and again today with an updated version of that come from Tierney, a proposal for our audiovisual, and Tierney is currently our audiovisual technical supply contract company. I'm not sure what word I'm looking for right now, but they do the audiovisual in the council chambers and did not install it, just to be clear, but are the ones that are currently servicing it on our behalf. This did not go to council to the committees last weekend with our apologies. We did not get the quote back in time. Initially what staff did was, as we're looking for that CARES grant, the response to improve the facilities that we can best allow remote access for the public to our meetings and hold remote meetings itself as qualified expenses. We looked at the entire building, every room that we possibly have the ability to meet and meet with the public. Got a very large quote from them, had them chop it down to these 4 rooms that are listed. And then that is a proposal that is in front of you today. The last thing to mention, I think, on my behalf is that Tierney does have the state bid contracts. All the equipment would be out at the state bid prices, thereby avoiding the overall bidding prices. In theory, it's the lowest possible for the purchase of the audiovisual equipment. City Hall Council Chambers would then allow removal of the existing camera and allow for more dynamic visual presentation, as well as wireless mics. And wireless mics are important so that, one, the mics, as people know, if you're watching, when we are in council chambers, don't pick up very well unless you're literally right in the microphone in your lips. But 2, then also allows the ability to move them around depending on whatever the setup is of the room. That would also allow then for Conference Room 112, which is currently only recorded audioly, to be cameraed as well. And likewise with the wireless mics, so that we're not dragging those mics all over the place. And we're already down 1 mic, having, I'm sure, been dropped or something. But it's time for those mics to be replaced, but then you can also move them around to wherever they need to be picked up. So in terms of where the council meets mostly, those 2 rooms will be greatest impacted and allow the public to then access remotely and get the full experience of a meeting. The fire training room was added also to the list for the ability, because of the part-time firefighters, to be able to do training remotely with that, instead of having to come in and possibly expose to any virus contamination, to get training remotely at home. Because again, if we wipe out the entire full-time positions, guess who's going to be called in? Be the part-timers. And the police training room then also, in conjunction with the Emergency Operations Center next door, but allow the police training room to have the same training capabilities that the fire training room would have, where people could utilize that room, do training, and not have to necessarily be present in that room. Spoke with Fred. We were very confident on the ability to be reimbursed on these expenses, in particular the first 2, City Hall Chamber and the Conference Room 112. Jared, you're on here. Fred, you're also on here. Amanda has been part of this project as well. If you would like to add any input, please do so.
I'm just going to kind of emphasize that part of what this, and part of why it's reimbursable, is the fact that it does give us the ability to socially distance and be more flexible in, especially common council chambers. With the wired mics right now, we're really limited. And so as we, are very optimistic that we're going to get back to being able to doing hybrid meetings, where at least we get some of us back in the building and back there, this gives us a lot more flexibility to appropriately space people out and also get a little bit of staff back, just because we would be able to move tables around, have staff spread out, have them actually have mics so that everybody can hear them home and away. It just gives us a lot greater flexibility. 112 has very limited tech. And so again, with some of the groups that meet in there and the way our meetings are structured, where we can't always have every meeting in the Common Council chambers, this would let us have the flexibility to have hybrid meetings in 112 as well.
Thank you for that, Amanda. Are there, Alder Olson?
Eric, is it proper for me to say we are applying for the CARES grant for potential reimbursement, that if we don't get it, we will not go through with this project?
Okay, couldn't quite hear everything, but I think the end point would be, Alder Olson, if we don't get reimbursed, we don't actually do the project. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And Fred can answer this too. What's interesting is these are expense reimbursements. We actually have to pay for the projects, and then after the project is complete, send it for reimbursement. And that window for reimbursement is the end of October, where we actually have to expend the funds in order to then submit it. So it's a little bit backwards. So there is, Alder Olson, there is some risk that they don't approve it. I think that risk for these projects are minimal. Had we included the other rooms that aren't necessarily utilized by the public, I think there would have been some risk, but we took those out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Alder Knott.
Yeah, Jim already pretty much hit on where my one concern is going to be. There is some risk, even if it's minimal. Now, if I understood from your presentation, Eric, you said that the first two projects you're especially confident about reimbursement. That third project is still 36.5K. Question I have is, if we end up not getting reimbursed for one or more of these, how are we going to end up paying for them?
I think probably the best way to answer would be to have Finance Director Bueller. I don't know if I see he's on here. I'm not sure he's available to speak, but he'd be the best person that way.
Fred, are you able to answer the question?
Sure. First of all, I want to do a little bit of a recap of where we are today. Prior to the bills being paid tonight, COVID-related projects were estimated of $64,000. With the $64,000, you have to add $48,952 for the faucets, touchless faucets that the Finance and Personnel and Common Council has authorized contingent on being approved. $39,877 of the phone system, the Common Council and Finance and Personnel have authorized contingent reimbursement. And if you take the full $163,944, there's also a $13,000 for elections. This all totals $330,000 on a $308,698 grant. So I think you can see that we would have more spent than receiving.
Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. So Fred and or Eric, if we were to, let me back up. After speaking with staff earlier today, they felt confident that items 1 and 2, which is A2 and B2 on the proposal summary on page 132 would be covered. There is sub risk with items 3 and 4, which is the E fire and G police. So those total about $78,000. So if we expend those dollars and get turned down, where would that approximately $78,000 come from? How would we pay for those?
All of these projects, whether it's these projects, the telephone project, these projects would be most likely coming out of Fund 207. However, if I can directly relate some of these items, if it's not eligible to an enterprise fund, I will do so. proportionately.
And Fund 207 is, remind me again?
Equipment Replacement Fund.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Diane, what is the total of A2 and B2?
A2 and B2 is let's see, the two of them is, I find $85,015.64. And I'll do that a second time to make sure. 85,015.64.
Did you borrow Fred's
Calculator.
calculator?
No, but I don't run tape. I'm too cheap.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the council here? We don't have a motion on the floor.
I have a follow-up question.
Alder Wolf.
Thank you again. So in talking with Jared earlier today, does Nils happen to be on the phone?
I don't believe so. Jared is on
don't-
the phone though.
Okay,
I do not believe he's on Alder Wolf.
okay, thank you. We got this large packet Friday, late Friday, and then we got an update late this afternoon. And I realized that we're on a specific timeline. I have to say that I appreciate, I know there was a tremendous amount of work that went into this, and a number of departments and a number of bodies that went into, a lot of work that went into this. So I appreciate that. It is a lot, I think, for council members to digest over a holiday weekend. It didn't help that yesterday was Monday and everyone was off. So it was just, trying to reach out to staff and get some questions answered and such. I have a confidence level for items 1 and 2, a little bit less for items 3 and 4, even though I would like to see that we get them. But my one concern is the style in which the scope of the integration services was written up. If I can be assured that how they wrote it up and the actual line items for the quotes, they match up, it's something that I can support, but it was just I didn't like the way that it was written up. It was hard to discern from a layperson point of view, was Tierney supporting it, or it was just the way they presented it. I wasn't sure at times, were they providing it? Were we being charged for it? And it was all over the place. So I would have liked a little bit of a tighter scope of services when writing it up. But if I could be assured that they match up, I can certainly go on record and support the first two proposals, A2 and B2.
Is that a motion?
I will go ahead, and it's not for lack of support of E and G, and if someone else wants to go ahead and make a follow-up motion, I will certainly consider that, but I will go ahead and move that we, let's see, I move that we approve A2 and B2 for the proposal summary in the individual amounts of $33,473.01 and $51,542.63 per our packet.
Thank you, Alder Wolf. Do you have a second?
For sake of discussion, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Wolf to approve items A2 and B2 for the non-budgeted audiovisual updates. It's been seconded by Alder Knott. Discussion. Jared Holter, let's hear from you first.
Yeah. So Nils Husker, our IT person of record, did spend a lot of time in the last 6 weeks working on this project. Met with a lot of staff, got all their needs. One of the things when I look at the price quote that's given, it's very detailed, and the fact it's got screws and cables, and it's detailed to the point that I feel comfortable in the fact that it has everything that we need to make these projects work. And the people from Tyranny have been very good at fixing what we've had, getting it to work. They've been very good at explaining these items to us. I have not been down to the nuts and bolts area like our IT person has, but I have confidence in him and that we're going to get a product that's going to work at the end of the day.
Thank you for that, Jared Holter. Alder Knott?
Kind of back to my initial comment and question, I'm just looking for a reassurance that if we do not receive reimbursement for these two items that are, that we've made a motion for, that we're gonna be able to find the funds for them out of our current budget. That's kind of what I'm looking for, a reassurance, so that I can have a comfort in a vote. So Fred, can you talk to that more specifically, I guess, if we don't get reimbursement on can we afford this without having to impact others?
Sure. Just a second here. In Fund 207, if you were to have the financial report, I can tell you the fund balance, the undesignated fund balance within the equipment replacement fund is $1,272,000. Unrestricted fund balance.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Alder Stevens?
So Alderwolf kind of touched on something that this came kind of late to us and over a holiday weekend. I mean, I did pick up the material and I did read it. But I don't know if I'm unique in that I like to kind of sit on things and think about it for at least a little bit. So I'm a little hesitant to pull the trigger right away. I guess I don't have a problem with the items per se, but I'm wondering if other people maybe didn't have enough time to process this, and if this potentially ought to be referred till next month. I'm curious as to what the other counselors think.
Okay, would any other counselors, Amanda, did you want to say something?
We can refer to next month. I mean, we could have a special meeting if you'd like to take a week and schedule a special meeting, we could do that. But because of the timeline with the purchasing and the ordering and getting the chance to have it reimbursed, unfortunately, we don't have the option to refer for a full month.
But with we're meeting remotely, having a special meeting isn't as terrible as what it used to be. So I guess it just depends on what the council wants to do.
I'm hearing a lot of hesitancy, so I'm certainly open to another meeting.
Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. And I think that's why when I saw the email come, maybe it was Thursday we got it. That's why I went right in that night and I called Eric and said, I called him, in fact, I think the first time I called him at night and said, can we talk about this? Because I knew he was going to be off on Friday. I want to get ahead of it over the weekend. I knew staff wasn't going to be in on Monday. And I really don't care for trying to cram in everything last minute on the day of council, because we get things keep streaming in and there's other things to take care of. So that's why I try to get a lot of my questions answered. So I spent a good hour looking it over before I called him Thursday night. And he answered the majority of my questions, but I have to agree with Alderman Stevens is that it's a lot to take in. And I was able to sit on it and take a lot of it in since Thursday night. So I have a greater comfort level with it. I would have liked to have had more time with it because it is a big project. It's a lot of dollars and it's a big scope of a project, but I also can appreciate the fast turnaround time. I know it was a very large project for staff to take on, and it's not something that Mills was able to just gather in a handful of days. There's a lot of departments, it's a very large scope of a project and a lot of players involved. So I cannot understand why it took quite a while for it to develop. But if there is hesitancy in other people's parts, I certainly would be open to a special council meeting if that's, but I can understand, Amanda, yeah, we can't take another month. But if we have another meeting in a week, I'm certainly open to that.
Thank you, Diane. Alder Smith?
Yeah, I agree too. I have a little hesitancy because of just the short notice and thinking about it, but the amount of money and not being reassured that we'll get 100% guarantee. I think we should push it back. My thought would be at least a week, knowing that we have to act quickly, but have more time to think this out and look at the options.
Thank you for that. Alder Olson, did you want to weigh in?
I was just thinking that whatever decision that we decide to make, and there's some very good thoughts that have been expressed. This is taxpayer money, and want to make sure that we have answers to the taxpayers if they ask us, because I just asked the same questions they may ask you. So that's all.
Okay, so Alder Stevens.
All right, so now I'm gonna kind of wheel it the other way. The finance director and Jared both had a high degree of confidence that this would be reimbursed under the CARES Act, and this appears to be kind of a time of the essence issue as per Amanda's statement. So I guess I'm looking at it that my takeaway is that this is probably going to be reimbursed, and we would be doing a disservice to the taxpayers of Unalaska if we left that on the table. And I guess the follow-up, what I was thinking about is, in the event that we had to pay for this ourselves and it came out of equipment replacement expense, is this something that we ought to do or should do anyway? So I know that they put a lot of work into it, and I don't think that this is something that was intentionally dropped on us at the 11th hour. I think if we waited a week, I would probably vote for this. So while I'm fine referring it, and that would probably be the smart thing to do, does anybody really think that their position is going to change in a week? Do we have to have another meeting just to approve something? And I guess I can go either way. I have a few evening appointments next week, so we'll have to, it may be a little bit more difficult to meet everybody's schedule.
Thank you, Alder Stevens. Alder Knott?
Yeah, no, I'm actually comfortable for voting for the first two items as per the motion right now myself, but I have no issue waiting. I mean, if people are not comfortable, I totally understand that this was a fairly last minute notification. So, but I'm comfortable with it now.
Alder Smith?
Could we, on this motion that Diane did, couldn't we approve for the first two that we have on the motion and maybe reconsider and think about the other two? Give us a little bit more time on that one, since that's the one that seems to be more in question of reimbursements. That's my thought.
Excuse me, City Administrator Eric Reinflesch.
My hand disappears. This is really weird.
Magic.
I think, to reiterate what Alder Stevens has said, in terms of and what Alder Smith just said, in terms of the first two items, I don't think Fred or my recommendations are going to change between now and a week from now. But I'm, very confident those will be reimbursed. We can't give anything more detailed, any greater promises, but that they can be reimbursed until we actually expend it and send it in. However, those strongly fit the guidelines for what is reimbursable. But likewise, I don't think I can change my answer that I'm less comfortable with the other two items between now and next week. I'm not going to be able to confirm that these would absolutely be reimbursed once we submit that between now and next week either. Therefore, if you share the comfort level that I have, and I think Fred has, I'll let him answer that question on those first two items. Then I guess my recommendation would be to approve those first two items. And if we can come back in the next week and provide a greater level of confidence, then maybe we'll recommend to the mayor and to council presidents that we hold a special meeting. But I don't want to schedule one with the anticipation of something changes when, quite frankly, at this point, I don't think something will change between now and next week with that. If we can get you some confidence, then I think we can have that meeting.
Right. I was thinking that too. The only thing that's really gonna change is that the counselors are gonna have more time to read over the detail of the packet. Like the facts of the matter aren't gonna change. The facts that it's a reimbursement. We don't know for sure if we're gonna get it or not.
Yeah.
Ald or not.
Yeah, so I guess, kind of extending what Alderman Stevens has said, if these are projects we should be doing anyway, including the two that are not included currently in the motion, if you would be recommending we do them, even if we're not reimbursed, then certainly we should, you know, if we would support something like that, we should do it now when there is at least a chance of it being reimbursed, I guess. And it sounds like we do have the funds to cover it if it's not. So I'll reform that as a question, I guess, to the city city administrator. Is this, are all of these projects something that you are comfortable with, I guess, recommending whether we are receive reimbursement or not?
As strong as I can be on items 1 and 2 with my recommendation that they will be reimbursed, I can do that. I can't say 100%, but as strong as I can be. But that does drop down for the other 2 items. You know, I think there is that question about that. My rationale behind that is because of the public use of the council chambers and the committee meeting room in room 112. You know, that seems to be the guidelines for there. The other ones are more internal. You know, we're protecting employees for that one, so my confidence will drop on that a little bit. But overall, I think these 4, the other rooms that we had in there, no confidence that we would have. You know, for example, the room 120 by the mayor's office, I think, you know, that is the professional conference room, but the public uses it very little. And I
140.
140, I'm sorry. I was less confident that one would be reimbursed. So that one.
You know. Let me restate it, I guess. I don't think I was clear. So yeah, I understand the confidence levels on where we stand and whether or not we may receive reimbursement. My question is, if reimbursement wasn't even part of the picture, are these projects that you would be recommending anyway? Because that might influence how we consider them as well. Because if it's something that we'd support without reimbursement, then we probably should support it because we have a chance of getting reimbursement. So I guess the question is, are these projects you think we should be doing regardless of we're reimbursed?
I can give a short answer for that one. I apologize, I didn't quite understand. But yes. Well, short answer, yes. I think there's great value to them and we do need to do them. I'd be recommending doing them anyway, and especially council chambers in room 112. Those have been sore spots for me since I got here over 3 years ago.
I think
Say
since.
what the motion is,
Yep, I know what the motion is. Can I repeat it? But we've been complaining about the AV and the council chambers ever since there was a microphone in there. Okay, so the motion on the floor currently is to approve items A2 and B2 from the memo, which are audio, non-budgeted audiovisual updates for the City Hall chambers and conference room 112. And the total of this is $85,015.64. That is the current motion on the floor.
Thank you.
I would like to suggest, just to try to move the discussion forward, that perhaps we vote on this and then decide if there wants to be a second motion or no motion or what to do after. Is that okay? Okay, so I'll ask for a vote on this motion then to approve the items A2 and B2, which include the City Hall Council chambers and conference room 112 audio visual updates. All those in favor, please say aye.
Roll call.
Oh, yep, roll call, sorry.
Okay.
Joanne, could you do the roll call, please?
Yep. Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Stephen Knott,
Aye.
Jim Olson,
No,
Tom Smith,
Aye.
Diane Wolf,
Aye.
Okay, thank you. That motion passes with 4 in favor and 1 against. It's a pass. And then I'll turn it back to the counselors if they would like to continue the discussion concerning the police training room and the fire training room, audio visual updates. Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. I personally am not prepared to support items 3 and 4, E-Fire and G-Police at this time. I'm certainly open to having a special council meeting in the next week. I do have a concern that we might be taking on some risk. I certainly won't speak for other alders, but I have a feeling there might be a combination of people may have a concern about the risk combined with they haven't had much time to sit on this and kind of stew over it. Maybe they need to reach out to staff. If they do need to reach out to staff, I would encourage them to reach out to Jared and or Nils or to Eric. And lastly, when I look at, for me personally, when I look at items E and G, about $78,000 worth, for me personally, I kind of look at this. I hear Eric saying that this is something he would support. I kind of look at this if this was on Board of Public Works and whether or not this is something, would it make the cut? So I'm not saying whether I would support it or not, if it was on if it's on the capital improvements, but that's kind of how I look at it, whether I would support it or not. So just food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Wolf. Would any other counselors like to, Alder Stevens?
Sure. Part of the AV upgrade was going towards the EOC that we're planning on rolling out and improving, which I think is at least presented in the capital improvement budget. So this might be one of those things that if we are able to get grant money to pay for something that we would otherwise be doing ourselves, I would rather get grant money than levy it against the city of Onalaska taxpayers. And I don't know who I'm aiming this question towards, but would this upgrade be something that we would be looking at as part of the EOC updates?
We'll go to city administrator for that.
Well, it's not really a grant, Alder Stevens. I think you bring up a very powerful point. You know, part of what staff is always in the process of doing is trying to find grant money to fund projects. While this is a reimbursement versus a grant, it acts in a similar nature that it's someone else's money that we can use to spend. The strings, however, are what's important here. That it has to be non-budgeted for 2020. And so it couldn't have been a budget item that we spent it on, including capital projects. It'd be non-budgeted, and it has to be in response to COVID-19. And so some of those other technologies that we're looking at throughout the building, which I feel strongly that we should look at at some point in time, isn't necessarily in response to COVID-19. How do you justify that? And that's where that comfort level about reimbursement comes in is, you know, are the expenses that we're putting in response to the COVID-19, and can we show it? Is there some justification behind that? We keep looking. I haven't really seen a whole lot of grants available for our EOC. Generally, the FEMA money is in response to an emergency. There's very little, you know, proactive that we really qualify for, but we always keep our eyes open. But the EOC is not necessarily in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. That's the one trick that we have there. So
it could be if it got really, really, really bad.
Yeah, we got really bad. Yeah, it could be. We could activate the EOC in response to it, and then we need technology for that. It could be, but that's where that rationale comes to play that we have to be careful about. You know, is it EOC purposes? Is it COVID-19 response? And part of the reason why those other projects got pulled out is hard to identify that's not just a wish list for City Hall purposes, upgrade technology in general, but it's in response to EOC.
Thank you, Eric. Amanda, did you have something?
I did. I just wanted to follow up on what Eric said just a little bit. I mean, part of why we looked at police and fire is that obviously as far as COVID-19 goes, that they play a large role in the response, different inherent risks with our jobs. And so from a COVID-19 reimbursable standpoint, we felt that those were reimbursable. We also discussed primarily focusing on the police training room as the room that we would want to do those upgrades to because of its close proximity to the EOC. And so in that sense, we felt we were hitting kind of two birds with one stone. We couldn't open EOC and justify putting technology in there. But if you've been down to the EOC, it's just a few steps away from the police training room. And chances are that if that was still intact, the police training room would still be intact. And so in that sense, you know, by doing the police training room, we were also kind of doing the EOC.
But for
Thank you.
COVID-19 response purposes, not EOC purposes.
Correct. We are getting the benefit of it. Yeah.
Right, and I'm thankful so far we haven't had to use the EOC for COVID because it seems to be a very slow emergency, and we would definitely need Stacy's granola bars to sustain us for all this time. Being at the command center there. Okay, so
Would,
I'm
would,
getting-
would it be a fair question to say that the upgrade to the EOC would have a higher level of confidence of being reimbursed than the other training rooms?
not the EOC, the police training room.
Right, the police training room, my understanding is that's a little bit more iffy on if it qualifies or not. Or are we just grouping them together?
Effectively, we're grouping it together to say the police training room would be utilized as the EOC, as not the EOC, but for the telecommunications purposes that we are trying to get in for the EOC. If we're in the EOC during an emergency, lots of noise, lots of chatter, if we're trying to communicate out, the police training room may be the best place to do so as it's isolated from the rest of the noise and chaos. It's sort of the rationale. But ultimately, in terms of even submitting that the confidence has to be the way, and this is through council action, correct, Amanda? But it's through Fred and I that we have confidence that it's going to be reimbursed. And so it's not just me you have to convince, or Amanda has to convince, or Jared has to convince. It's also Fred has to be convinced that this will be reimbursed before we even consider it. Sorry, Fred, to put you on the spot there, but it's both of our names, right?
Yeah. Well, like we had stated earlier, I'm very comfortable with A2 and B2. I am not comfortable with E and G.
Okay.
And with the dollars that we are, where we stand and continue buying expenditures, we're currently, as I stated earlier, 30,000 over budget if you took all four.
All four.
Well, 30,000 over the maximum reimbursable expenses, not over budget.
Well, over budget from the expenditures prior to tonight that we approved through the check register.
But this is an evolving situation as well. So I'm hearing, I think, dissension, nothing really coming together. So why don't we just move on with the agenda? And if the council would like to see this, if the counselors would like to see a special meeting on this, you'll have to take action to bring it forward again. Is that okay with everyone, or does someone want to step up and make a motion right now? Okay, nobody's jumping up. So item B regarding the, oh, Eric, item B.
Yep, update regarding installation of multi-purpose trail along State Trunk Highway 16. This got added to this report from City Administrator because again, it's late breaking news. But I will turn it over to Jared Holter, Director of Public Works, with your permission, Mayor Smith.
Jared
Thank you.
Holter.
Thank you, Mayor. We did receive word late last week that La Crosse County did receive a Transportation Alternatives Program, or TAP grant, for the State Trunk Highway 16 off-street trail. So that would be a connection from South Kinney Cooley Road to Landfill Road up to the landfill entrance where the new signal light will be going in. So this would connect up to the Nathan Hill Estates area. Would connect to the existing trail that is along 16 that goes from the La Crosse River back toward the landfill. And also the grant also does include a bridge over the La Crosse River, so you'd be able to access, safely access the village of West Salem. As part of this grant, about a little over a year ago, we did have a resolution that we supported that grant. This grant will be paid, the construction will be paid for by the grant and La Crosse County. but ultimately the city of Onalaska will have maintenance jurisdiction over the path because it is within our corporate limits. Also, as part of this, through our capital improvement project list over the next few years, we will have to finish the trail between the city limit line at Dick's Sporting Goods and South Kenny Cooley Road. There's a short section there that the city will have to build themselves as part of our capital improvement program. But we're excited for this. The city actually applied for this as a grant about 10 years ago and was declined. And the county has applied a couple times now. So it is a good thing. It will be a great connection to have a fully off-street path for safe pedestrian and bicycle travel along State Trunk Highway 16.
Very good news. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for sticking with it 10 long years. Item 12, report from the city clerk. Joanne.
Thank you, Mayor. I did receive the preliminary estimate from the Wisconsin Department of Administration for our January 1, 2020 population for the city of Onalaska. And that number is 19,330. And that is an increase in population of 342 residents from our 2019 population.
Okay, thank you very much, Joanne. Okay, not seeing anything else. Item 13 is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn at 8:21.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion to adjourn by Diane Wolf, seconded by Tom Smith. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
Yeah.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
I had